Okay, guys, we're here with artistic director of Throughline Theater, right? Cody Spellman, and I've got some interesting information here. He's got a wonderful production that's coming up, the Living News Festival, which is going to be going on in Carnegie. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so it's definitely not an original idea. This type of festival was I think invented or started in the 1930s, coming out of the Great Depression, as a part of the Federal Theater Project back when the government was trying to revitalize the arts in the United States and actually supported and paid for the arts. And that theater project didn't really last too long because of a lot of the progressive values that came from the content. A lot of the work, some really famous plays and playwrights came from that project. And they used news stories, like actual local issues and stories of things that were happening in their communities, and they wrote about them. And even though it was really, really successful and so many people appreciated the work that came from that, it didn't last more than just a couple of years.
Huh.
Um, but this festival itself is something that came from that project, which was they called it the Living Newspapers Festival, back when folks read newspapers. I've kind of updated it a little bit. I love a newspaper, but a lot of folks aren't reading newspapers anymore, so that's why I'm calling it the Living News Fest.
So can you tell everybody, I mean, what's the connection with Pittsburgh in the news? I heard about it and it really intrigued me, but can you just describe what goes on and how was it created, like with you guys?
Yeah, so I've done this in the past. I came here from Chicago, where quite a few theater companies do this type of festival. And what's always been really cool is it's been an opportunity for a community to come together and experience stories that are, happening in their actual area, and see them told in a different way than just reading it, or hearing about it. They're actually able to experience, to a certain extent, something inspired by these stories, which I think is, an even deeper way into these experiences and everything. So now that I live in Pittsburgh, and Throughline theater, especially, like our sort of catchphrase is theater that connects us.
Hmm.
We're all about finding a through line within our work, our content, and figuring out how to bring in a greater community and connect everything that we're doing into our community. And so I thought, what better way, or I, I don't think that there's a more through line festival that we could possibly do than something like this, where we pick local stories from various news organizations and papers and stuff, and try to find topics that are both hard hitting as well as really interesting and fascinating, or really funny and weird, to make it a really cool, sort of well rounded, night of the theater. That brings as many people together as humanly possible for us all to experience this collective thing as a community.
So it interests me, how far back do you guys go with articles or stories that you've heard?
So with this one, I'm excited. I hope that this becomes something that we do every year. But with
Hmm.
this specific festival, just looking at the articles that I chose, they all seem to be current events, um, except for there's one uh, that I found that was sort of talking about how there were, which I didn't know as someone who's not a Pittsburgh native, there were tornadoes in Pittsburgh 25 years ago. And so one of the papers just wrote a sort of a write-up about the impacts of that incident, of the various tornadoes that happened all at the same time 25 years ago, and how our community is still impacted. There are still people that are impacted by that crazy tragic moment. Luckily it says no one died, but so many people were impacted by it. So that's kind of the more historical one. That's called U-Haul in a Tree, written by José Pérez. And then from there, I would say another sort of historically connected, but very, very modern or new sort of discussion is on Color Park. I picked an article that was sort of focused on how Color Park has recently been covered over as a sort of a resetting kind of
Oh,
program to,
like when they
and
reset it and new pictures go, or new people can
yeah,
draw or
they
something?
recently painted over it all white, and with this intention of bringing new artists, new work, just having a new chapter
Hmm.
for this area, led by Baron Batch, who's a famous local artist. And that has led to some huge controversy. Some people are really excited about it. Others are really, really upset about this, because there is work that was done by artists, years and years and years ago, that are even no longer with us anymore.
Right.
Um, and so Patrick Cannon is taking on that article, and he wrote a really incredible play that I don't want to get too much
No,
into.
you
I'm
don't
really
have to, you
upset
don't get
about it.
into it. Don't get, we'll
Yeah,
come and see it.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but it is interesting because I bike there all the time through Color Park, and it's actually growing. The art
Mhm.
that comes out of it is growing further up the path where
Which is
it
really
never
cool.
was before. And
Yeah.
I don't know that's if it's because they paved more coming up or something. And I
Mm,
do see that there's like an evolution of different artistic pieces that layer on to some of the old stuff, and
right.
I'll always like be looking, oh, where's that one? And sometimes it's gone because it's painted over with something new. So that sounds like a really interesting piece, and I'll enjoy that one as well.
Yeah.
How do the stories get put together? How many are there? And do you get to see them all in that one performance, or is each performance a different one? How do you see it?
Yeah, so it is so the overall performance of all the plays. So it's 5 plays that we will be presenting,
Okay.
each around 10 to 15 minutes. So it will be one night of theater, on the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th that you can
Okay.
catch. You can catch all the plays presented in one night or whatever.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to go every to see different ones. They're all in that one.
Right, right. It's
Okay.
a short play festival. These types of stuff it's been really fun to try to keep it within a 10-minute sort of
Right.
period. So that way we can really pack as much, stories into a single night as possible and bring as many people together.
Wow.
Uh, but then as far as the process goes, um, I chose some stories and that I thought the playwrights that were chosen would be connected to or drawn to in some sort of way. And then after a little bit of back and forth with each of the playwrights, we settled on some, their actual news article. And pretty much it's been hands off from there. I really don't want to, get in the way of the creative process. I
Mhm.
sort of said, you can write anything about this. It can be inspired by it can be totally off the cuff from this article, just using the headline, or it can be pretty straight up exactly what the news article is.
Mhm.
And from there, just a couple weeks ago, I mean, as of like last week even, I got the plays. We connected everyone with the actors and the directors, and they're all super talented, as well as the designers for us. And we're off at the races.
I
We get
can't wait
back
to
on
see
Monday.
it. Did you discover any cool Pittsburgh stories maybe that you didn't use while you were delving into archives of old stories?
Oh yeah, so many, and even like trying to make some work that ended up not working out because of the sensitivity of the area, and especially as an outsider, it's like there were some stories that I was really attracted to, but then, thankfully, because of these incredible local playwrights sort of brought to my attention, like, hey, actually, like, let's hold off on that.
Yeah.
um there was, yeah, I mean, so many. I could actually go on for days and days. Like, as a non-local, it was actually a really great experience to force myself to not read anything that is a national sort of topic,
Right.
and really try to stick to hyper local issues.
Uh-huh. Well, how would people end up getting tickets for your production? And when is it? I know
Yeah,
I'm coming, so if you could say like when it is, where to go to get the tickets. I hope that people take advantage of this because Pittsburgh's got so many stories to tell, and it's one of the things that I love about the city.
absolutely. So we have performances on starting next week, August 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. So that's a Thursday through Sunday, all at 8 o'clock p.m. At Carnegie Stage in Carnegie, PA. And you can go to throughlinetheater.org for all the ticket info.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with me, and I really look forward to checking it out, and I hope this will be something that you could do every year. It seems it seems like a really interesting and meaningful project.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you to see it, and thank you so much for doing this. And yeah, I hope that we get to do it every year. Especially I wanted to say also that one really important thing for Throughline is that we make sure that our tickets are as accessible as humanly possible. So with this festival, all tickets are $10, and you can
Oh,
buy
that's
them in
really
advance
good.
or at the door. So
Yeah,
come on.
sometimes
Yeah,
theater or musical tickets are not within reach of
right.
people. Yeah. So I'm sure that that is a good point to bring up.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
Okay,
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
thank
Yeah.
you. And now I'm with Katy Chmura, who is actually a director and an actress or actor from one of these wonderful plays. So,
Yes.
Katy, which one of the plays are you directing?
I'm directing a short play called Be Ashamed, written by Patrick Cannon. And it is a very, very, very cool piece about the refreshing of Color Park in the South Side, which actually just recently happened in May of 2023. So we got a recent article, but yeah, it's a really cool piece. Yeah.
Oh, I love biking through Color Park.
Yeah. It's a really cool spot.
So uh, did you find there were any challenges to direct from something that was written from an article, or how did you guys what was like the creative process of directing? Now, are you an actor in this piece or a separate piece?
I am not an actor in this piece, but I'm an actor in another piece that's also
Okay, so
completely
let's talk about the directing part
great.
and tell me how like how's the creative process? Like how many actors do you have in this play, and like how was it?
Yeah. So I have three actors, which is great. It's so nice to be able to like herd the cat of only three actors. Usually when you have more, it gets complicated. But the process was interesting because one of my favorite things to do as a director is work with living playwrights. So I love that this festival has playwrights who are like here, they're local, they're Pittsburgh. So the really, for me, the most fun process was working with Patrick and kind of talking to him about, oh, we were in rehearsal and this line was said and it didn't sound quite right. Can we change it? And Patrick was like, yeah, sure, like whatever makes sense. So it was a really collaborative process, which I loved about it. But there obviously are some difficulties with the fact that we are presenting a piece that is so fresh and so present. Like we got an article that is from this year, where some people got articles from, 20, 30, 40 years ago. We have a piece that people will remember this happening. This was not ago. So for me, it was about keeping the relevancy of kind of this being a fresh wound on the city that happened, and on the artists that were involved. So it was kind of hard to kind of tap into that emotional connection to the piece, the fact that there are people out there who were around when this happened. But yeah, that was for me, some of the hardest part is like, how do we make this authentic and true and honest to the article? But also it's theater. So,
Right. I mean, this whole thing intrigued me when you told me about it. And have you ever worked on something like this before?
Not this exactly. I have worked on like one act festivals, but those are usually like published works.
Right.
All gonna get together. But this is, to me, Cody Spellman, who he's the artistic director for Throughline, such an incredible way to bring together a ton of amazing like local Pittsburgh talent, and to have it almost be like a 48-hour. It wasn't 48 hours. We had a lot more time than that, but it kind of feels like an 8-hour film thing, like they had
the whole collaboration of everything. That's what I think you mean, right? You've got like all these different people coming in together, and also you're using the community as a backdrop, and it's real life people.
Yeah. Which is, I think, the coolest thing. I've never really been a part of something that was that I involved, like with a ton of moving pieces, so it's been a really cool process. Yeah.
Can I ask, how was being an actor in one of these pieces?
Yeah. So I am in Smithfield Shelter Shutdown, written by Melanie Taylor. And it is about the homeless shelter that was shut down in downtown. It is.
How many years ago was that?
Oh, that one I'm not sure. I think it's also pretty fresh as well. Okay. I don't think it's as fresh as like early this year, but it might have happened a couple years ago.
Okay.
And it really affected downtown, especially the homeless population in downtown, because they have nowhere to go now. So kind of switching gears to being an actor in a piece like this, it's interesting because I get to kind of I've gotten the unique perspective of being able to look at one of these articles from a like artistic sort of like creation standpoint of like, I'm creating this as the director, but being an actor, I kind of get to be able to get really deep into the heads of some of these characters that Melanie wrote regarding this like article. So it's been cool to kind of get both perspectives on it, on creating it, but then also like living in it a little bit.
Yeah. So I wonder if you actually got emotionally attached to the situation, because it actually, you know what I mean? Because it like actually happened, and I'm not exactly sure about the story, and I'll be seeing it on Saturday with the homeless shelter and everything. But I mean, as far as like the controversy or whatever went through, you're performing it, and then you're probably delving into what actually happened and stuff, and now you're a part of it, kind of like trying to portray it and stuff. And I wonder how that weighs on you.
Yeah, especially with this show. I have a huge a huge soft spot for homeless population. I think obviously the homeless population, they're treated abhorrently by the city, by organizations and things like that. So living in this piece, and being the character that I am, I play the character of Jessica, and she is like a yuppie white woman who owns businesses in downtown, and she is rallying for this homeless shelter to be shut down. So I am definitely playing totally opposite of what I believe as an individual. So yeah, it weighs a little bit, especially because it's like it's in the town that I live in. It's not like these things happened thousands of miles away, and it's sort of like, oh, I wasn't there, I'm not around it. It's like I drive in downtown all the time, so it's like that it's so there, and it's so real and raw. It's also just hard to play a character that I don't subscribe to her actual belief system.
Right.
But it's been really eye-opening, and it has really like led me to delve into some of these articles a little bit deeper about like what happened? Like, let me research this. Let me see what happened. Like, it just opened me up to a lot more of the history of things that have gone down in the city.
And then I think I would like the last thing that I would probably ask is, um, did this, you said you wanted to delve more into stuff. Did you like find that you've discovered more things that you didn't know about Pittsburgh and even other stuff you want to look up?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I moved to Pittsburgh in July of 2020, so I'm fairly new to Pittsburgh. And I
Where'd
moved
you move from?
Northern Virginia, about 20 minutes outside of DC. I'm originally born and raised in Alexandria, Virginia.
Mhm.
And moved here, had no idea. I had never even visited Pittsburgh before. So it was a gamble to be here. So I find this a really unique opportunity for me to be involved in this because of the fact that I don't have that much Pittsburgh history. I don't consider myself a Yinzer. I wasn't born and bred here. I do love the city very much. So this has kind of been really, really great for me to be able to learn a little bit about like the roots of Pittsburgh, like even the shows that I'm not directing or not acting in. Like, I looked up the articles and I'm like, I want to learn about this. Like, I want to know like what is going on in this city, a city that I've grown to really love. So it's been really unique in that way for me.
Well, I can't wait to come see it.
So excited. It's
So,
a really,
yeah.
the pieces are great. I'm so thrilled to be a part of it. And Cody his brain was just in the right spot, I think, with choosing this. So
Yeah, that it sounds like it's going to be really great to see.
yeah.
So, thanks for sharing this fantastic production with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to.
Okay. And finally, we're here with José Pérez the fourth, who is a writer of one of these incredible stories. And I can't wait to hear how it all came together, how you wrote about it. So can you tell me what the creative process was like?
Yeah, so like all the other writers, I was given an article, a local article about something that happened in Pittsburgh. Mine was about a community looking back on a freak tornado
Okay.
that ripped through a community, South Side, South Hills, 25 years ago. And so it was looking back on that event. And then also within that article, they were talking about another freak tornado that hit. It was early 1900s. I want to say about like 1914. And that
Oh,
was a much more devastating event because, they didn't have the same sort of infrastructure we have now.
uh-huh. Um, so what's the title of it?
Uh, Title of my play is called U-Haul in a Tree.
Okay. Were there any challenges doing this? With your act, trying to create these characters and stuff like that. And did you create characters that actually existed, or did you have some in your mind, or how did you do that?
So I'd say the most challenging part was that there was so many good things in the article
Okay.
that I had to just sort of whittle it down to, what's the juiciest for me. There's just so many different directions somebody could take it, which is really exciting about the festival, is to see what did the playwrights run with. I'm really excited about the other plays. The characters, none of them are, I would say, directly lifted from anyone within the article.
Okay.
I had kicked around about having a meteorologist character because that was a pretty distinct voice in the article. They had really interesting things to say. But the little nugget that stuck with me the most was a tidbit about a woman who happened to be moving that day when the tornado ripped through.
Oh my gosh.
And she was out picking up a U-Haul, and she was going to drive back to her place, not knowing what she was going to find. And the police, they had barriers on the road, and she's trying to get up the hill to her place, and they wouldn't let her through. And eventually, she had to show them a receipt They say, hey, that my house is up there, and then they let her through. Something about that stuck with me, and that was a little piece that grew into the rest of the play I wrote.
Have you ever done like something like this before? Like had like a piece of something and then had to be creative with that and work on it, and then you see it into fruition.
So I write a lot. I make a lot of my own shows, mostly in Pittsburgh through my small theater company, Big Storm Performance Company. I'm the artistic director. And prior to that, in my undergrad degree in drama, I was in an acting studio called the Experimental Theater Wing, and a big emphasis was on creating our own work. And so with that, we did a whole lot of exercises, the creating original work, devising world. We would utilize a lot of techniques like that of, hey, let's lift from books. Hey, let's lift from articles like this, anywhere to get like a jumping off point. So it's not terribly foreign to me.
Did you get really involved in it? I mean, it's a very, I guess, sentimental piece, right? You know, people are losing their home. I don't know what happens. Don't tell us what happens in it because I'm gonna come see it on Saturday. But I mean, did you get emotionally invested in it?
I'm glad you used that word, sentimental. That really rings true for me. So for the article, events like this where when there's some sort of really strange occurrence that impacts a lot of people, especially a physical neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot of times, unfortunately, it might be a disaster, but even things I think about in my neighborhood of like, a transformer blows up, or like, all the water shut off or the electricity's out. Any strange occurrence that makes you talk to neighbors and people in your neighborhood maybe you never would have talked to before.
Yeah.
But something really firmly connects everybody. Those things, both at a small scale and even at a national or global scale, are things that are meaningful to me and I'm very interested in. It seems we can live very disjointed, separate, private lives until there's something that is very firmly connecting us, and then suddenly it's a lot easier to talk to one another. That was something that interested me in the script of, neighbors having to be out in the streets and deal with the debris and talk to each other. And then that is pretty firmly shows up in my play.
I guess, did you feel any more closeness to Pittsburgh doing this, or I don't know. What really intrigued me and made me attracted to coming to see this and even talking with you folks is that I love Pittsburgh so much and the community, and this project involves so many different aspects where you're taking these articles and extrapolating, information, and then creating from that, and then you guys are acting it out, and but it's stuff that really happened and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, did it get you closer to Pittsburgh?
I would say yes, especially as an outsider.
Right.
Pittsburgh's a very distinct, dynamic place, and a lot of people stay here. They grow
Yeah.
up here, they live here, and they stay here, and that's something I really respect. I feel I'm in a middle place right now. I just hit my 9-year anniversary living in
Wow.
Pittsburgh, so it's long enough that I feel a sense of, this is very much where I'm
A sense
living.
of community.
Yeah, but also I'm in this place, and this came at a great time of getting these little tidbits of history of the area, of occurrences in the area, that did make me feel closer. Because now I have this interesting story in my back pocket, and I've been doing it since I wrote the thing. I've been telling people, like, did you know 25 years ago a freak tornado hit, and then in the 1900s, and like.
Oh, and it's all connected.
What's a little thing I have of Pittsburgh that sometimes it's the first locals are hearing of that thing.
Yeah.
No, probably not locals, but maybe people who weren't here in like the late 80s, early 90s, I guess. So it did make me feel closer to this city I'm living in and that I love now.
Do you want to tell me anything else about the production or your group or writing or anything about Throughline or the project?
I'm just really grateful for companies like Throughline, especially a lot of these companies who really stuck it through after the pandemic.
Mhm.
It's hard to do theater post-pandemic, but Throughline is a wonderful group of people who really want to enrich their community with really high quality art. I think it's going to be a really dynamic night. The playwrights they got together are all really strong people in the community with really distinct voices. Mine
Mhm.
is on the sillier side. I don't know what the rest of the plays are going to be, but mine is definitely
Oh, yours is more of a comedy.
yes, very
Oh,
much
okay.
so.
I didn't know.
I like
See,
to write a lot of silly, and then in the center is sort of a core of something more meaningful. That's what you can
I
expect.
can't wait to see it.
I hope you like it. I hope you
Yes,
enjoy it.
I think I'm gonna like it and like all of them just because it's such a cool concept.
Yes.
Definitely. Thank you for your time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, thanks for chatting.